Ganondorf, one of gaming's most iconic villains, is the main antagonist of the most successful adventure series, The Legend of Zelda. From the first game on the NES to Breath of the Wild on the Switch, he has had a wide range of magical and physical abilities throughout his many legendary boss fights. And then we have a Smash iteration being Captain Falcon, but slower, stronger, and with a sword on his smash attacks in the latest installment. Yeah, needless to say, there are a lot of people who want so much more from his moveset, and that's what I'm here to address. Today, we'll be redesigning Smash Ultimate Ganon to include some of the more iconic abilities that Smash is currently lacking and also give him some meaningful buffs. Let's get started. Let's begin with the positives. Although I have some problems with Zelda's representation in Smash, I'll give it credit for covering nearly the entire series with just its characters alone. Link represents Breath of the Wild, Zelda represents A Link to the Past and the corresponding games, Toon Link the Wind Waker, with Young Link being a more all-purpose Link while Sheik and Ganon represent Ocarina of Time. The only things that aren't here are Twilight Princess and Skyward Sword, both of which were represented in the previous two Smash games, plus Skyward Sword has its own stage. His animations, along with his character and move attributes, contribute to a heavy power fantasy. His particle effects are gorgeous. His moves have solid windups with quick, snappy animations once the windup is over, and his slow movement, although one of his bigger weaknesses, which we'll get to later, gives him a very satisfying wrecking ball feel, especially in the air. Ganon, no matter how good or bad of a character he might be, is a menacing, fear-inducing force who capitalizes hard off of the opponent's mistakes. Exactly what many people want from a playable boss character. This is furthered by his large hitboxes, which perfectly cause devastation in a more casual environment. Strong, large, and easy for items to knock the opponent into. Now onto the bad. And I'd say the bad is worse than the good is good. First off, there is the previously mentioned Captain Falcon issue. Although Ultimate made great strides in decloning him via adding a sword to his smash attacks, Ganon's origins as a Falcon clone in Melee still shine clearly. This is most notable in the case of Warlock Punch, which not only is just Falcon Punch but stronger and slower, but it shares many traits with other moves in his arsenal, namely his up tilt, Volcano Kick. All three of these moves are big, strong, slow, and wildly impractical, unless the opponent is forced to make a huge mistake. And even then, both characters have better options for the same situations in their moveset. Then, there is the issue of mobility. Although some aspects of his slow mobility I like, giving Ganon a sense of build-up with move impacts, I think it's taken a bit too far. This isn't a game like Melee or PM where Ganon can offset his poor speed with universal movement options like wave dashing. This is Ultimate. Despite being the second fastest version of Ganon in the official Smash titles, only slightly behind Melee, his overall mobility is greatly hurt by a lack of universal movement options, having some of the worst mobility in the entire series for the third game in a row. Of course, his poor mobility is intentional, as Ganon in exchange receives absurd damage and kill power. This makes him similar in design to grapplers and traditional fighters who struggle in neutral in exchange for cataclysmic power once they actually win the interaction. Because these characters lose neutral a lot by their very design, they also tend to have ways to bypass the issues with being put in disadvantage. In a platform fighter, this would come in the form of super armor, a quick get off me aerial or grounded move, or a good recovery to allow the player to live longer. Ganondorf has limited armor only on Warlock Punch and Flame Choke, the former of which is a move you get comboed for even attempting. His aerials are either too slow or go in the wrong direction to help escape juggle situations, and his recovery is infamously bad. causing him to die at way lower percents than his weight would suggest. Despite having such raw kill power, Ganon dies to his opponents easier than he kills them, which to me shows a failure in achieving the goals Ganondorf is meant to achieve. His final flaw would be the fact that at this point, Smash Ganon is a big part of Ganon's history. Many of his moves, based directly on those of Captain Falcon, have become an iconic part of Ganondorf and the Smash series. Flame Choke Ganon sides, Warlock Punch as a shield break punish, down aerial spikes. All moves based on Falcon, all moves that have come to represent both Ganondorf and to a lesser extent, Smash itself. These moves that are often criticized for being remnants of his clone days, many would agree are a part of his Smash identity, and although I don't agree with this mindset, I understand where it comes from. Let's start with the most fundamental part of a Smashed character, the base attributes and any other unique mechanics. I'm giving all-around buffs to his mobility. His dash speed is buffed to be faster than characters like Steve and Byleth, but slower than the likes of King K. Rool and Isabelle, with exact stats on the screen for reference. His airspeed receives a similar buff, now being equal to Kazuya and Byleth. I also buffed his acceleration stats to make it to where he takes the same amount of time to accelerate as he did before. I'm also taking a bit of inspiration from Project M and letting him float like Peach, with his floating speed being equal to airspeed. Outside of being an obvious nod to his Ocarina of Time boss fight, this aids his combo game and recovery significantly. Speaking of recovery, let's discuss his specials. His up special is now a teleport with slow startup similar to the likes of Palutena and Mewtwo, and can also be edge cancelled. Ganon in the Zelda series primarily uses teleportation as the main form of movement for his beast form, alongside floating, so this is one of the more obvious choices for the redesign. Ganon's teleport in his origin games tends to be more of a fade out and then fade back in somewhere else effect, and that's how it will look here. A simple special to go over right quick is Down Special. I wanted to keep Down Special as a burst movement option, but make it more distinct compared to Captain Falcon. The issue is, not counting teleportation and floating, most of Ganon's abilities don't really work as movement options unless I have him pull a horse out of thin air. So I just gave Down Special a sword to distinguish it visually. Another change I made was to allow the aerial version to refresh Ganon's double jump, just like it did in Melee. Before we get into the more complicated neutral special, let's discuss my simple change to Flame Choke. Now, like in previous games, it kills the enemy before Ganondorf when used off stage. Out of those 3 iconic moves based on Captain Falcon's moveset I mentioned earlier, being Dare, Flame Choke, and Warlock Punch, the easiest to justify replacing entirely is Warlock Punch, as out of the 3 it's the move that serves the least purpose in his kit. It's so useless that Brawl Minus buffed it to do 666% and it still sucks. It's always been a painfully slow move that nearly always results in the opponent countering with a combo or a heavy hit. It's just too easy to react to. In this redesign though, it's something Ganon in Smash has probably always dreamed of, a projectile. Now I should probably preface this with the fact that I did not come up with this move. That honor goes to Reddit user TRTGNZ, who also did a Ganon redesign a couple years back. I'm not sure if this is how they intended the move to function, but based on their descriptions, this is what I came up with, and I am very happy with the result. Neutral Special is a lightning-based charge projectile with 3 stages, all of which can be reflected back. The first stage is rather weak, but is still nice as a way to B-reverse, a movement option Ganon cannot take much advantage of with Warlock Punch.
It keeps getting bigger as it charges until about half a second before it reaches full charge. It becomes a large ball of energy with increased power. It is the strongest of the 3 stages in terms of raw kill power, but has a bit slower startup as a result. It is one of Ganon's strongest kill moves, killing Mario at the ledge at a little less than 60%. Finally, at full charge, instead of a large energy shot, it's 5 small ones. It acts as a multi-hit, hitting the opponent 5 times. Because of it being a multi-hit, it overall does the most damage and also keeps the enemy in stun for a longer duration of the move. This is made better by all 3 charge stages counting as an electric attack, which means the opponent is put in hit lag for a longer period of time. Meanwhile, Ganon is free to do whatever he wants due to it being a projectile and therefore not putting him in hit lag. The way I envision this move makes it to where each move has a different purpose. Stage 1 is meant to act as a beat reverse option, Stage 2 a kill option, and Stage 3 a combo starter or edge guard option. Since we just went over our Warlock Punch replacement, let's talk about another big, slow, powerful move, Volcano Kick. I kept it the same speed since I like it being a difficult to land 2-framing option, but I buffed its power significantly. It was honestly kind of underwhelming in comparison to other options in Ganon's kit, not to mention one of Ganon's better shield break options in the form of Warlock Punch was removed. So picking up some of that slack with this move is a good idea in my opinion. Even with me lowering its knockback growth, the large damage increase I gave it results in a massive boost in power, now killing Mario at about 35% when used on the ledge, making it Ganondorf's strongest kill move. I also buffed its damage to where when factoring in the 1v1 and freshness bonuses, the damage it does puts lightweight characters like Fox in kill range for forward smash under the same conditions. Moving away from killing, let's talk utility. I actually decided to give Ganon access to 2 reflecting moves, which not only gives him options against zoners, lets him volley back his projectile when opponents send it flying back at him. First of which is the more practical of the 2, is F-Tilt, now being a reflector with decent speed and great power. Animation-wise, it is also changed to be a backhanded swipe. Quick, safe, and extremely useful, unlike the next reflector. I decided to replace his side taunt with a reflector that has a simple multiplier of just 1 times power and speed. On top of having a more practical option now, if you want, you can also have 2 Ganons play a game of volleyball using neutral special and his side taunt. Side taunt is now a wave of escape based on his fight in Ocarina of Time. For the final change, I wanted to address Ganon's issues when it comes to being juggled. Although we gave him massive buffs to his recovery, drastically increasing his lifespan, he still remains by far one of the easiest characters to rack up percent on. I decided to fix this by adding super armor to his legs on there. Ganon is still easy to juggle like this, but it's a bit trickier since you now have to watch out for this powerful option. Today, we fix the 2 fundamental flaws with Smash Ganondorf, being his low survivability and lack of series representation, while still allowing him to feel like Smash Ganon. This is something that is no small task, and I'm happy with how this turned out. He can now escape juggle situations, has a unique projectile, a far better recovery, and a terrifying float combo game. Ganon still struggles in neutral with this redesign, but I made getting hit far less punishing and slightly more avoidable, while also further emphasizing the raw power that Ganon has in spades. As always, if you have any ideas for a character for me to redesign, feel free to drop it in the comments below. For now, see you next time.